Up here instead of down there is because where we're streaming from the main camera. If I sit down there, nobody can see me, so that's why we're doing it. I'd rather be sitting down there. That way I can sit down instead of sitting there. Let's go ahead and let's stand. We're going to sing Someday. Benny, go ahead and bring up the music. We'll sing Someday. After that, we'll get into our Bible study. We'll have prayer requests and do our Bible study. Okay, are you going to bring up the music, Benny?
Oh. Sorry.
Someday. Hold on. Did anybody turn on the amplifier back here?
Yeah, I did.
It's on. My trials here on earth shall cease someday, someday, and I will have unending peace someday, 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 some happy day from sin set free. I'll live with Christ forever someday, someday. No more in darkness I will roam someday, someday. But rest eternally at home someday, 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 some happy day from sin set free. I'll live with Christ forever someday, someday. Those gone before me I shall meet someday, someday. My loved ones will my spirit greet someday, 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 some happy day from sin set free. I'll live with Christ forever someday, someday. My loving Savior I shall see someday, someday. With Him in glory I shall be someday, 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 some happy day from sin set free. I'll live with Christ forever someday, someday. Amen. Mary Beth, would you open us in prayer, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for those that come out this evening, Lord. We pray that you come with favor, Lord, and to lead us in a Bible study this evening, Lord. We pray for all the requests on everyone's hearts, Lord. You know each and every one. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I was singing it. More darkness I will roam. And my brain's weird. So I'm singing the song, and I started analyzing the words of the song. Like I said, my brain's weird. And I started thinking, now wait a minute, as a Christian, we're not roaming through darkness. Because our path has been illuminated by the scriptures, right? We know which way we're going. But then I thought about something. It's not that we don't know what path to take. It's not that our paths aren't illuminated, but we are in the midst of a dark, dark, dark world. Ain't it going to be great? We're going to go somewhere where we don't have to worry about the sin and about all the nastiness of this world. Isn't it going to be great that you're not going to have to worry that somebody's going to break in and steal or somebody's going to beat you or pull you out of the car and kill you? All the other junk that's going on today. Aren't you glad that one of these days you're going to be somewhere where there's no more darkness? And aren't you going to be glad that your loved ones who died in the war are gone before you? I've got aunts and uncles, and I've got my mom over there, and a lot of folks that I love dearly, and they're all already over there. And you know what? Rebecca's Aunt Brenda, one of the sweetest ladies you ever want to met. She took in kids like some people take in cats. I mean, she just loved everybody. She's a super sweet lady. Bunch of folks over there that I love dearly. I'm going to see you. But you know what? Most of all, my loving Savior I want to see.
Amen.
The one who died for me.
Amen.
The one who gave his life.
Amen.
All right, let's take up our prayer requests. We'll have prayer, and then we'll go into our Bible study. Anybody have any outspoken prayer requests?
Pray for me down this week.
You will. All right, anyone else? Sue Ramsey, praise report. The lady I was telling you, she had COVID. She was on a ventilator for a long time. And then after that, she went into a rehab facility for a long time. She has gone home. I mean, not home to be with the Lord. I mean, they dismissed her from the hospital. She's back home. You know, that's a good thing to be. So I thank God for that. I thank God that He's still in the business of answering prayers. When you pray, don't forget our church. Don't forget each other. All of us have lost family members. If I were to ask, I'm not going to do that because it ain't no sense, because I already know everybody in here raised their hands. And if I said you've had more than 5 people in your family, most of us raise both hands. You know what I'm saying? We need to pray for those who don't know the Lord. Let's pray for our church, pray for our community, pray for our nation. Things seem to be just going kind of crazy right now. Our nation needs God.
I talked to some ladies today, and 2 of them was living together. One was dominant, the other was just the partner. And we started talking about it. And I told them what they doing wasn't right according to the Bible. It wasn't according to the Bible. And she knows the difference between right and wrong. Our nation is headed in the wrong direction. It's so terrible. These people, some of these people don't right from wrong, but they need our prayers. It's like it's laid on my heart. They need God throws anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
I did invite in the church.
Here, thing is that sin is sin.
Right.
If you got a young couple who heterosexual couple shacking up, that's wrong too. You know what I'm saying? The Bible says that's fornication. It's the same kind of class of sin. I'm telling you that if you look hard enough about anybody's life, you're going to find sin. Seeing as somebody who doesn't know the Lord sinning shouldn't surprise you. It should actually surprise you if you see him not sinning. Sin comes naturally to human beings. We are born in sin. Our nation, everything about our nation is tainted with sin. And here's the thing, you can't make it any better because all you got is people, and people are sinful. So if you throw out one group of people because they're all corrupt, you bring in another group of people, guess what? They're going to be corrupt too. Why? Because they're people.
The Bible tells us for all sin comes short.
Exactly. All sin comes short of the glory of
That's
God.
the highest person we can be on this earth to the lowest.
So we do need it. So let's go ahead. And Bobby, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come out to your house. Dear Heavenly Father, let's praise your name for your many, many blessings. Dear Lord, the prayer requests that we lift up to you, we pray that you'll answer them in your time, in your way, and give us the understanding to accept that. Dear Lord, be with those who have unspoken prayer requests and just speak them out, but you know what they are, and you know our needs. And we just trust you, appreciate you, and love you. Amen.
Amen. All right, we're in Genesis chapter number 32. Genesis chapter number 32. And we should make it through the chapter. So, to catch you up, if you ever binge watch something on Netflix, I can't remember things right now. If you ever binge watch something on Netflix, you have the recaps, previously on whatever show it was. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Yeah, that will last about 10 seconds. But it'll give you a recap. So here's a recap. Jacob was a mama's boy. Jacob was at home, and Jacob tricked his brother out of his birthright, so bought the birthright for a bowl of soup. And then later, he and his mom tricked Isaac to give the blessing instead of Esau, his favorite, to give it to Jacob. We talked about how that showing favoritism in family is a really bad thing, but we also talked about how Esau got married, and Rebecca didn't like the girls that he married. They were a bunch of pagan girls from this community, and so she used that as an excuse to say, I'm going to send my boy out of here. I'm going to send him back to my brother's house because I don't want to marry these girls here. And so he goes to Uncle Laban's house. We talked about how he met God at Bethel, the house of God. He met him at Bethel, and he had his experience with God. From up to that point, it was his dad's religion. It was his dad's faith. It was his dad's way of living. And then he met God at Bethel, and it suddenly became Jacob's faith. But see, it was Jacob's faith, but he wasn't very serious about it, was he? Because he was still trying to be a trickster when he got there at Uncle Laban's house. And the trickster, that's what Jacob means. It means heel grabber or supplanter. He was supposed to, he saw his brother coming out of the womb, and that little turkey went up and grabbed his heels and said, oh no, I'm going to pull you back in, I'm going to go. That's what Jacob was. He was a supplanter, he's a deceiver, he's a trickster. And so Jacob, the trickster, got tricked by Laban time after time. We see that, for 14 years he worked for his wives, and then after he worked for 14 years, he made another deal with Laban, and then we saw last week that finally all this stuff building up, after all these years of taking this abuse from Laban, how Laban was mistreating him, that Jacob just lost it, kind of just gave him a whole piece of his mind, and they agreed, I'm going to go this way, you're going to go that way, and we ain't going to see each other no more, because I don't like you, basically, And we talk about sometimes the best way you can have peace with somebody is by staying away from them. Have you ever had somebody like that? The best way to have peace with somebody is just to stay away from them. A lot of people I love, I don't go around because when I go around them, I might be tempted. Facebook has taught me a lot of self-control. I hear people on there going, I just don't know what to do. I don't have money for food and my rent. And then they'll talk about their 65-inch plasma TV. I'm like, I think you've got a problem with priorities. Maybe if you get a job, But anyway, I don't say anything. I get into theological discussions with people, but I don't sit there and tell people about that stuff. So Jacob left Laban, and he's on his way home. God told him, I want you to go home. I want you to go back to your land. And so he's going, and in 32:1, and Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. Angels is how many? More than one. And when Jacob saw them, he says, this is God's host. What does that word host mean? It's not the person who meets you at the restaurant that leads you to your table. What does a host mean? Means army, right? The Lord of hosts means basically the Lord of the armies, right? The host of Israel were encamped here. The word is an old-fashioned word, means an army. And this is God's host, and he called the place by the name of Manamina. Now, Manamina means two camps. Now, later on we're going to see that Jacob splits his family into two different camps. Some people say that's what that means. Other people says, no. What they mean is that he sees these angels, and there's something significant about this, and he says, okay, they're going to camp over here, and I want to camp over there. And so that's where that came from. He saw angels, more than one. He saw many of them, and they looked different. They looked like God's army. And now, sorry, Benny, I didn't change to verse 2. I'm sorry. Sometimes in my notes I put verses together and I don't put it in the Bible. Thank you, Benny, for keeping me straight. So anyway, these angels. Remember the last time that he saw angels? Remember where he was? He's at Bethel. Remember he had a dream. And he saw angels ascending and descending on this ladder. And so he says, this must be the house of God. And now he sees these angels. So significant events in his life. Significant events in his life have been preceded by him seeing these angels. Now, in our life, there's been times significant events in my life has been preceded by God moving in my life and doing something. We were talking the other day, and it's like, what brought us together? I don't remember what. And she says, God and the weather, because I was going to go to my church at Butcher Creek, and I couldn't. I was 17 years old, and because it was snowy and slick, and says, you can't go down there, it's too far, I don't have the gas, plus the roads are slick. So how about if I go to my buddy's church? And that's where I met Rebecca. So God, because God and the weather, we are together. God has a tendency preceding significant things in your life. And Jacob, these angels are telling him something weird's going on. So he's going home. And as he's going home, he starts to think about something, about the last time he was there. Maybe he was thinking about his mom's cooking. Maybe he was thinking about all the fun stuff he used to do. And maybe he was thinking about seeing some old friends that was around. And then he started thinking about his brother. Then he started thinking about how he treated his brother. Then he started thinking about the reason he left home to begin with was because his brother said, I'm going to wait till Dad dies and I'm going to kill you because you're dirty, rotten, whatever. And so that's why he was scarce for 20 years. And so the more he thinks about this, he starts to get a little bit upset. He says, well, maybe I ought to figure out, like put my finger in the air and just feel which way the wind's blowing with Esau before I'll go on under, because he might still be waiting to kill me. So what it is, verse number 3, and Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother unto the land of Shinar, to the country of Edom. This whole Laban thing was behind him. He was leaving one bad situation, and now he's going, and there's a potentially another bad situation in front of him. He can't go back because Laban came to kill him. I honestly believe he did. And before his brother, he sends these messengers and what's going to happen now? He figured it's probably been 20 years. He's probably cooled down. He's probably not mad at me anymore. But you know, I did trick him. I did take the blessing. I did get the birthright. I might want to check things before I go home. So verse number 4, and he commanded them, saying, watch how slick he is. Thus you shall speak unto my lord Esau. He says, thy servant Jacob saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. Until now. Then in verse number 5, and I have oxes and asses and flocks and men servants and women servants, and I have sent to tell my Lord that I might find grace in your sight. You notice, before he was the trickster, before his brother came in and said, man, I need a bowl of soup, so we can get it for him. You know, before he was kind of arrogant about it, but now he's saying, tell my Lord Esau. In other words, Esau, you're the boss. I'm not the boss. You're the big guy. I'm just the servant. And he says, tell him that I've got enough stuff of my own. I'm not coming to get Dad's inheritance, right? That's kind of the idea. I'm not coming to get Dad's inheritance. I'm not looking for money. I'm okay. I'm just coming back home. I'm hoping everything's okay.
Humble.
And he's humbling himself, right? So, by the way, if you want to deal with somebody, the easiest way to deal with somebody is to be a little bit humble. Arrogancy has a tendency of destroying. Do you know how many relationships are killed because somebody is prideful and they won't? If you're prideful and you refuse to budge off of a position, now, not budging off a position because it's right, they're wrong, that's a different thing. But I'm saying if you're being prideful and saying, I can't admit that I'm wrong and I'd rather die than you're making a huge mistake and it's a sin, we should not be that way. Oh, Jacob learned dealing with dealing with Laban about being humble. Laban was far from being humble. After Jacob served him, he still considered everything that Jacob had earned as Laban's, right? So he learned something. This boy can be taught. By the way, we were talking on the way here about how old he was. He was at least 40 years old when he left home. He was one of them people that lived in the basement. You know what I mean? Kind of a late bloomer. So, and he had been gone for 20 years, so he ain't no spring chicken coming back, right? So verse number 6. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to thy brother Esau, and he also cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. They said, hey, guess what? We met Esau. He's ecstatic you're coming home. And he's so happy he's going to come and meet you, and he's bringing a whole posse of men with you. Now, Jacob's thinking about this, and he's saying, now, if it's just Esau, I can understand that. Why is he bringing an army with him? What's going on here? He's thinking he's coming to kill me, and it starts to bother him, right? Now, I figured that at first he's like, great, it's all right. And then he started thinking about it, and then he wet his pants. 400 guys, there's only one reason for that in his mind. He's in trouble. So verse number 7, and Jacob greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 bands. And he says, if Esau comes in one company and smiteth, then the other company which is left shall escape. He started thinking about the problem that he had. The problem is, God told him to go home. He didn't have a choice. He couldn't go back to Laban. He had to go home. So what happened if Esau attacked? Well, if he split his group into two different groups and had them far enough apart, if one of the groups were attacked, the other group would be able to escape, right? The idea is that some of his family would survive. And so that's his mentality, is that there's a real possibility that I'm going to be killed. There's a real possibility I'm going to be, I didn't even change words. I'm sorry, Benny. So his point was, I'm going to separate him so if something happens, I'm okay. Then verse number 9. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saith unto me, return to thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal with thee. Now, he separated, done everything that he could, and he's still thinking about it. And he says, this is not a good situation. I don't want anybody to be killed. I don't know what to do. And so he does what anybody who has half a brain does when they're in a situation when they are in dire straits. And that is, he fell on his knees and talked to the one who can do something about the problem. You notice this is different. Before, he complained about Laban. Before, God wasn't in his consciousness. Now, because of the circumstance, now he's paying attention to God. He's praying to God. And he says, look at this. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast shown me unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over Jordan, and now have become two bands. He says, oh God, I'm looking at who I am. I'm looking at what life that I've lived, and I know that I'm not worthy of what you've done for me. I've been a trickster. I've been a deceiver. I've not lived a good moral life. And even after I met you in Bethel, I still tried to trick Laban. I still tried to do all this stuff. I wasn't the kind of guy that I needed to be. And God, I'm unworthy. Hey, you're never going to get saved if you don't realize that you're unworthy. You have to admit that you're a sinner before you can get the cure. It's kind of like if somebody had a disease. Let's say they had a disease that had cancer. And it's a cancer that they have a cure for. And the doctor goes up and tells the guy, says, you've got cancer. And the guy goes, no. So we did the scan. Here's the picture. See right here, this is cancer. That's somebody else. I don't have cancer. Okay, sir, I understand, but look, we'll do it again just to prove it. But this right here is the cancer, and if we don't give you this pill, you're going to die. But if we give you the pill, it'll be a cure. He says, I'm fine, I don't need it, I don't have cancer. Is there anything a doctor can do to help that person? No. In the same sense, Jesus Christ died for our sins. He's already paid for, he's provided a way for us to escape our sins. But unless you get like Jacob and admit the fact that you're a sinner, admit the fact that you have sinned, because until you admit you have the disease, you can't take the cure, right? But Jacob admitted that he had the disease. He realizes his position before God, and he asked God right there, he's praying to God. He says, you're the one, God, you're the one who said to return with my family. God, you're the one who said you would take care of me. God, you're the one who's shown me all this mercy, even though I don't. Now, he's building up to something, and I want you to notice what he's doing. Look there, in verse number 11, he says, deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. He says, listen, God, I need your help. I'm afraid of Esau. I did Esau wrong. I know I've done him wrong. And now I guarantee you he's coming out here with these 400 men because he's going to do something about it. And I don't want that to happen, right? And he reminded God of all the promises that God had made him and what God had said. Do you think it's wrong for us to go up to God and say, God, you said this, and you said that, and you said this?
No, I don't think so. But I think that he didn't have faith in God because God's the one who turned him into what been there in the first place.
Well, I mean, God tells you to do something, and then you start to do it, and you realize there's issues with doing it. I guarantee you that it's still scary. You know what I mean? God tells you to do something. It's still scary when you go to do it, and you're still begging God, God, I need your help. I need your help. I need your help.
And I understand that.
So
in your mind, you got to have faith in what God asks you to do. and just move forward with it.
But right here, what happened is he brought up every one of the promises God had made us. And now, God, you're the one who told me to come here. And God, you're the one who said you're going to take care of me. And God, I'm in this situation because I'm left Laban because you said to go, and now I'm facing my brother, and I need you, right? There's nothing wrong for you to say, God, you said to enter in boldly before the throne of grace. You can go boldly before God. And you can say, God, you said to ask that we have not because we ask not. God, you said that whatever things that we ask you for, that if one of us would not give their child a serpent or a stone if they ask for bread, how much more so would God take care of us and give us things, right? The point is okay, there's nothing wrong with us to remind God of his promises. Don't think for a second he's ever forgot about them.
No.
So verse number 12. And what, by the way, just notice, the fear was not on himself. Did you see that? Look at that real quick. He says, and the mother, he's going to smite me, and the mother with the children. His concern, I believe, is primarily about his family. He's like, I got all these kids, and I got these women, I've got my wives. God, I'm afraid my brother's going to kill them and me. But his focus, I think his focus was on them. We're going to see it in a minute. Verse number 12, and thou saidst, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So he said, God, you promised me these things. I'm counting on you to keep your promises. There's nothing wrong with reminding God of the promises he made us. When you're feeling alone, say, God, you said you never leave me nor forsake me. Christ, you said you know he's going to be there to the very end. There's nothing wrong with reminding God of the promises. Because in reminding God of the promises, you remind yourself too, don't you? Amen. So verse number 13. And he lodged there that same night and took that which came to his hand for a present of Esau. Now, he came up with an idea. He's sitting there and he's thinking, if Esau's mad, what can I do to help the situation? He says, well, if I give him a bunch of stuff, I might help him, right? He's mad at me, he's coming to kill me, and all of a sudden he gets his big present from me. That might change his opinion a little bit. So he says here, 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, and 200 ewes and 20 rams, and 30 milk camels and their colts, and 40 kine and 10 bulls, and 20 she-asses and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hands of his servants. Every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, pass over before me, and put stakes betwixt the drove and drove. So he says, okay, we're going to have these going in groups. So this group here, you go first. And you wait for about 20, 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, then the next group goes. Then you wait for 20, 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, then the next group goes. And the idea is that at first, Esau's coming to meet with these 400 people, and all these, you have 200 camels. What's this? Oh, this is the present for Esau. Well, I'm Esau. Well, these are yours. Okay. Who are they from? From Jacob, your brother. Really? And then all of a sudden, before you even process that, here comes the next group. Here's some more. There's milk kind, there's cattle, there's all this other stuff. This is money, man. This is like somebody saying, here's your check for $10,000. Here's your another check for $10,000. Here's your another check for $50,000. Here's your check for $5,000. Your heart might be inclined to forgive what your brother did when the checks keep rolling in. You know what I'm saying? That's what Jacob's idea was. He's prayed and asked God, but he's also trying to figure things out on his own. Listen, I believe that we need to trust God, but I also believe that trusting God means that sometimes you need to take movement, right? If you're saying, God, I'm sick, it's a good idea for you also to go to the doctor, right? If you're having marital problems, it's perfectly fine to go and talk to pray to God about it, but it's also good to go talk to somebody about it and get counseling. You know what I'm saying? So Jacob's doing something at the same time. And he commanded the foremost, saying, when Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh thee, whose art thou, and whither thou goest thou, and whose are these before thee, then thou shalt say, they be thy servant Jacob's, and it is a present sent unto my Lord Esau. And behold, he is behind us. And said, oh, these are from Jacob, they're for you. Look at the bow on them, they're all for you. And he commanded the second and the third And all that followed the drove, saying, On this manner shall ye speak unto Esau when ye find him. And ye say, Moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us, for he said, I will appease him with the present that goeth before me, and afterward I will see his face, and peradventure he might accept me. He's saying, I've done him dirty. This ain't even half of what I owe him for all the stuff that I've taken, but maybe, just maybe, this will calm things between us. So verse number 21. So went over the present before him, and he lodged himself that night in the company. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed before the brook Jabbok. And he took them and set them over the brook and sent over all that he had. And Jacob was left alone. Okay, we'll stop right there for just a second. So what he done is he started thinking, all right, I already sent out the presents. What if Jacob comes in the night while we're sleeping? He said, well, I figure that he ain't going to hurt my family. He's after me. So if I send my family up ahead of me a little bit, when Esau comes, he's going to pass right through my family and come kill. He'll kill me and leave my family alive. So here he is, all alone, thinking about all the stuff that he'd done. And he's scared to death. One of the most monumental days of his life. He's going to meet his brother in the morning, the guy he hadn't seen in 20 years. And it says, he was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. I don't know how that happened. How do you just start wrestling a guy? You just walk up, hey, how you doing? Want to wrestle? I don't know what happened. But here he is, all alone. He's been praying. He's worried to death. He's scared to death. And then here comes a man, and somehow they start to wrestle. Now, and when he saw that he prevailed not against him, this is talking about the person to whom he's wrestling, and touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. Who is he wrestling with? I believe this is the pre-incarnate Christ. There's a reference in Hosea chapter 12, but it's kind of an oblique reference. It doesn't really say. Yeah.
I think about the introduction that he just started wrestling with the guy. There's no introduction of this guy appearing in his camp, or who this guy is, or nothing. It makes me think that it starts out as a spiritual thing. Of course, it's just makes me think that because there's no kind of introduction of any kind of other person other than Jacob in the camp alone.
Yeah.
See, I kind of thought that way too, that it may have been either spiritual or perhaps it started out to be in a dream.
Right, which, yeah, and I was thinking the same way.
Well, my only thing with that is I don't know if he's going to be having a good night's sleep. Remember, he's sent off all kind of presents to kind of appease his brother. He separated his family into 2 big groups, and now he sent them up ahead, and he's way back here so that if his brother comes, his brother's going to kill him and not mess with his family. And so he's probably not going to be sleeping too much.
You're talking that he's got to be around 60 years old at this point. I know some 60-year-old guys when the bus hits the seat, they go to sleep. But if he walked and traveled all day long and did all that, it's hard to know how many days. When he finally sat down next to his fire and got a little bit warm, he might have just dozed off. It's not something intentional. But I think that, to me, and it's just my thought, that this started out spiritual as a spiritual battle. It could have turned to where it was a physical form. But I think it started, because there was no, to me, the surprise in this is there's no introduction to any other person.
The interesting thing is that Jacob has been struggling with God his entire life, hasn't he? He had been wrestling with God. God wanted him to go this way, and he's going over here. He's being a trickster. He's being a deceiver. He's listening to his mom when he should have had enough sense not to listen to his mom and trick his dad. He's not been listening to God. And then at Bethel, he told God, he said, if you take care of me, I'll follow you. But when he's at Laban's house, he's still struggling with God. There's still this struggle going on. And this is the culmination. And God's like, all right, if you want to struggle with me, you want to wrestle with me, come on, let's wrestle. Me and Billy sometimes will get to wrestling. And he'll get a little, the funny thing is, he'll get a little bit mad. But he also gets a little bit stubborn. and he will keep wrestling with me. No matter, I'll pin him down, and he won't be able to move. And he gets madder and madder and madder because he's pinned down. And I'll let him go, and he'll jump on me again, and he won't stop it. And that's the way Jacob was. He started wrestling, and they wrestled all night long. And it says when he, talking about God, saw that he prevailed not against him. Listen, sometimes in our lives, God will deal with you. And when God deals with you, He's going to either win or He's going to say, fine, have it your way. Every person who's in hell is because God has told them, have thine own way. You don't want to have anything to do with me? That's fine. You go have your own way. You go ahead and be separate from me? That's fine. But here, it said when he saw that he had not prevailed, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and that his thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. Just a touch. Now, do you really think that God was struggling wrestling with him?
No.
Do you really think that God was really worried that, oh, I'm not going to be able to win? He touched him. Just touched. And his hips out of joint. And he says, let me go, for the day breaketh. He says, I will not let thee go unless thou bless me. The thing is, friends, they started to wrestle. And Jacob started to realize who he was wrestling. And he started to realize what the purpose of the wrestling was. There had been a wrestling match his entire life, and now came to the end, and now he's got a problem. Because he had been wrestling with God all this time, and now he's like, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to hold on to you. Listen, the only way we get anywhere with God is when we quit fighting and surrender what God wants and just hold on as tight as we can to God. That's what Jacob finally did. He said, I'm not going to let go until you bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. Remember, the word Jacob, the name Jacob, names had a lot of meaning now, then. Now they don't mean anything. This is what you picked out of a baby book. And some people look like they took a bunch of Scrabble letters, put them in a cup, and threw it. Oh, that's a name. And you can't even pronounce it. Back then, the names had a significance. He was the heel grabber, the deceiver, this supplanter. And so now God said, and he said, thou shalt no more be called Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince thou hast power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. He says, you've struggled with God. You've been fighting with me, and you've figured it out. You don't need to fight against me. You need to surrender to me and just hold on. So I'm changing your name. You're no longer the deceiver. Now, the word Israel is made up of two words. Israel, which means wrestles, and the word El. Remember, Bethel means house of God. So it means one who wrestles with God. So he says, your name no longer is what it used to be. You're no longer identified with the way you were before. Because now you've made a decision, and I'm changing you. This instance is going to change Jacob for the rest of his life. And it's going to be a significant enough change that now, right now today, is a nation over in the Middle East named after Israel. Because of what God changed his name to. Isn't that amazing? That thousands of years ago, one guy had a wrestling match with God. Because of that, for thousands of years, there are people known as the children of Israel.
It's just like we talked coming in here. I think that he was wrestling with God all his life, but I think when he fell asleep there at Bethel, I think that it was God kind of introducing himself to Jacob, saying, I am the I am of your father and your grandfather.
Right.
See, I thought the same thing that I think he fell asleep and started to drift. I think that he realized that he was wrestling with God from the very beginning and couldn't quit. He didn't want it, you know what I mean? He couldn't let go. He would, because through his prayers and stuff and everything that was going on, he started wrestling with God within the dream from the beginning. And you know, the way you describe it, I understand that, but I think that he might have realized that who he was wrestling with, and he couldn't let go. He couldn't quit. He couldn't return until it was complete.
Right.
And Dave, that's what I was telling Andrew on the way here. I think that it's like his aha moment with God, like we all have.
Yeah, you are
he,
on the same top of this.
Yeah, he was introduced to him at Bethel when he saw the ladder. And, you know, God is saying, I am the I am of your father and your grandfather. Moses, you know, I'm your father.
Abraham and Isaac.
Moses, or, Abraham and Isaac, not Moses anyway. But I think that's what it was. God was introducing him to him at Bethel, and then at this point, he knew who he was, and he was not going to let
Right,
go.
he couldn't let go.
Yeah. By the way, if you get a hold of God, don't let go. Don't ever let go. So Jacob asked him, he says, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost have to ask after my name? And he blessed him there. He said, what's the business of yours by my name? So he's, once again, Jacob's, all right, you gave me a name. What's your name? He says, I'm going to tell you my name. You kind of know who I am, Jacob. I'm going to tell you. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I've seen the face of God's face to face, and my life is preserved. Peniel means, once again, El means God, right? So Peniel means face of God, basically. He says, I've met God face to face. Here's something interesting. There are denominations who believe what is called the second work of grace. You ever heard of these people? There are people who believe that you get saved. And then there's a time when you come up and you get, they believe that at that point you stop sinning. Of course, they're wrong, because you don't stop sinning. They believe you get a second work of grace. But I don't believe you get a second work of grace. But I know an awful lot of people who get saved. And they're saved people. They're Christians. I think of Jason Sparks, who's a good one. That man was saved for years and years and years. And then there's a point when he gets serious with God and God starts doing something different in his life. I was saved and God did something in my life and changed me, right? There comes a time when your relationship with God changes. You were saved, you still are saved, but something happens. And that's what happened here, I believe, with Jacob. He had known God at Bethel, but now God, he was the one that he was wrestling with, and he accepted who God was, and it's going to change him. God gave him a new name. Hey, who you were before you got saved doesn't matter. You have a new name. What you used to be doesn't matter anymore. And it says, and as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose up high, and he halted upon the side. When he stood up, he went. From that day on, the way that he walked changed. Think about that. When he met the Lord and got serious with God, he walked differently from that point on. When you really meet God and you really get serious with God, it's going to change the way you live your life, won't it? I don't see any way that you can live your life in a way that, if you really know God, it cannot not change your life. That's just completely, I said that completely wrong, but you get what I'm saying.
It's that journey. You and I talked about that journey once. It's that beginning of the journey, but somewhere in that journey, it seems like you grow and
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying. You and I talked about this in a related way.
My cousin Ronnie tried to teach me how to play bass. He showed me where to put my fingers. He taught me the patterns, and I knew where to put my fingers, and I knew the patterns. But I'd play it backwards. I'd do it wrong, and I didn't understand it. And I kept practicing. And then one day, I don't know what happened, something just went right inside my brain, and I was like, oh. And I understood the nature of what I was doing. And from that moment on, I could actually play bass. Before, I kind of knew where to put my things, then I fully understood. As a Christian, you get saved, and you throw yourself on the mercy of Christ, and you just believe Him. But there comes a time, there needs to come a time, there are some Christians who never get past that, and that's a sad thing. You got an 80-year-old baby, somebody been saved for 80 years old, but they've never progressed. But as you learn more and more about God, and you learn to trust Him more and more and more, there comes a time when you say, God, all that I am is yours. I'm not going to hold anything back. I'm stopping the struggle now. I'm surrendering to you. I'm giving you my complete self. Right? And that's what he did. Verse 32, therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew of the shank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, because he touched it of the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew of that shank. So, interestingly, there's no Mosaic law about this. But ever since that happened, whenever they kill an animal, they're eating that piece, that's one piece they don't eat. Is it because that's where God touched Jacob? And it's not in the Bible, but it's in the Talmud. The Talmud is a commentary on the first 5 books of the Bible, right? Yeah, the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, and then you have the Talmud, which is like 16,000 pages or something like that on those first 5 books. But they mention it there. By the way, in the Babylonian Talmud, there was actually a reference to Jesus calling him a musician from all the miracles he was doing, which is interesting. So Jacob meets God. God touches Jacob, he gives him a new name, and changes the way he walks forever. And from this point on, Jacob now is a different. He knew God. He met God at Bethel, right? He was raised in a home. Isaac taught him about God, but it wasn't until he left and made that decision at Bethel that it was his God and his faith, and then later he starts wrestling with God. And he realized it's time to stop messing around. It's time to stop playing around. It's time to get serious with God. Stop your fighting and just give in to God and hold on tight. And it changed Jacob. And I guarantee it made it a whole lot easier in the next day to meet his brother. Anybody have any comments or any other? There's a lot of stuff in the Bible. And when you read it at first, you're like, wrestling with God, why would God? But when you think about a guy like Jacob, he was hard-headed. He was a little bit stubborn. And he thought really much of himself. I mean, you can't be a trickster unless you think you're smarter than other people. You notice that? Did you know that? You really can't be, if you lie to somebody, you're lying because you think you're smart enough to pull the lie off. Right? If you're not going to lie to somebody who you know is going to see through the lie. Jacob was kind of stubborn, he was kind of hard-headed, and he was kind of a little bit arrogant. And then he met Laban, and that taught him something. And then he had to wrestle with God in order for God to teach him that the way to actually have a relationship with him is just to quit the fight and surrender, and do things God's way. It's kind of like a lot of times when we're growing up, our dads or other folks in our life tell us to do something, and we try to do it another way, and they see us struggling. They say, if you would have done it the way I told you, it would have been a whole lot easier.
But he had to do it his way, and it took him 20 years.
What's that?
He had to do it his way, and it took him 20 years.
Yeah, it took him 20 years to do it in his way before he figured out his way wasn't the right way. All right. Don't forget service on Sunday. We're going to have a business meeting. Now, it was not my fault this past Sunday. A tree fell across the road, knocked out the power. We couldn't have a business meeting. But I think everybody's ready to have a business meeting, so we'll have it on Sunday night. Any other announcements? Don't forget the Baptist Fellowship. It's coming up Friday the 10th. And from what I understand, we are hosting the thing. So we'll talk in the business meeting. My inclination is not to have any food, just because it would make it harder for us to do that. You know what I mean? Because you have to take the mask off to eat. You know what I'm saying? And I'd be kind of afraid that there would be a coronavirus outbreak based on our church. It wouldn't matter.
Do you think they're going to put a mandatory wear mask in public every place else? You think that's going to come into effect?
They're talking about it.
Yeah, if it does, then we should. That's just my thought. I won't be here.
I understand trying to keep people safe. Fact of the matter is, the disease is going to spread regardless of what we do.
Exactly.
We can try to slow its spread so that once people get it, become immune to it, that we can build up a herd immunity without overwhelming the medical system. We need to protect the folks who are really, really vulnerable, those that are in nursing homes and so forth, those that have health conditions. But I don't know the solution. But, well, like I said, my opinion is that we not have the meal afterwards. Although that kind of like sacrilegious to a Baptist to get together and not have food. So, all right, all hearts and minds free. Bobby, would you dismiss us, please?
Dear Father, we thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for our lesson that Andrew brought. Watch over and take care of us as we go our separate ways and bring us back together. Amen.